hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert with you here,
Reverend Z over here.
and this is New Thought Today, a production of the New Thought Media Network. We always like to say thank you real quick to the New Thought Media Network and everyone that makes this programming possible. We bring this to you
Yes.
every Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and what the whole idea is that we get to share in taking a much deeper look and a much deeper dive into what is known as the Centers for Spiritual Living Global Heart Vision. Both Reverend Elzia and I are ordained ministers at the Centers for Spiritual Living. We both work in independent ways in ministry for different communities and different leaders and organizations. And it's New Thought. It's a fun place to hang out.
Yeah.
But this program specifically is all about exploring the global heart vision as it is expressed through Centers for Spiritual Living. Now, there are 10 different principles or statements involved in this, and we've been looking at a number of them over the last few weeks. And I'm going to encourage you to go check out the past episodes of our
Yeah.
previous
Yeah.
discussions. And we have some great news for you. We're gonna have a special guest with us next week. So we've looked at this and we're gonna break these into chunks. Today we're gonna discuss what we consider the fourth principle or the fourth statement. But then next week we're going to have a special guest where we go back over all four of these as well. So if you're new to the program and all this and this all feels like drinking out of a fire hydrant today, rest easy. It's a-okay. Come back next week and we'll make sure that we recap. Stay with us this week, but next week we're going to do a big recap. So what do you say, Z? Shall we dive right into this here this
Yes,
morning?
sir. Yes, sir. I think it's a great topic here today on this
Yeah.
particular vision.
So number four, our fourth statement, we envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life, a world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. Now, we've been saying this all along. All of these are pretty hefty mouthful in of themselves. So we're going to kind of break this down little bit by little bit. And Z, you're going to get us started on this first part of the statement, right? We envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family.
Right, right. And uh, that really is so amazing once we get behind the scene of that, as you'll see here, in that this principle or this part of the vision states that everything, humans, animals, plants, everything is a part of one global family. We all live on this planet in a symbiotic relationship, if you will, with each other, and we're so interrelated. And of course, we know the obvious ones, like we breathe in oxygens that plants put out, and they take in the carbon dioxide that we put out. If we get to the animal kingdom, we look at we for those who are not vegetarians, they're animals that we partake of to nourish our bodies. They're animals that we use to help us with different tasks. And then there are the minerals of the earth that a large portion of them make up our body. We have iron and zinc and copper and all these different minerals, things that we look at or sometimes describe as inanimate or non-living, yet we need those things for us to live. And so it really paints a great picture of one global family that is interrelated, interconnected, and that as we grow or as we respect and cultivate these relationships, we begin to grow as a global family. And I think that's just so cool.
Always helps when you unmute your microphone. And, I agree with you to kind of launch into this one, right? The oneness, and implicit in this, and this is just the first tip of the iceberg of this statement, right?
Mhm.
Is that we're growing. that
Yeah.
this is not a static thing. This is not just, oh, that's the way it is, that's the way it's always been, and that's the way it's always going to be.
Right.
As a family, we're growing, we're expanding. And think about that, right? Think of your own family. This is kind of, we're into November. We could talk about the Thanksgiving holiday now, right? And not allowed to talk about the holidays until after uh, Halloween in my house.
Yes. Yes.
There's no holidays till after Halloween. So, uh, but in our own families, we're constantly growing, learning how to communicate with each other.
Mhm.
You may be like my extended family. We have folks in my extended family that don't believe the way I am, that aren't voting the way I am, that look at life differently. And at the end of the day, we're still part of this one family. We're still part of this wholeness
Yeah.
that's happening. And now I get it. The farther we go away from our own nucleus, the tougher that becomes to see, the tougher it
Hmm.
becomes to recognize someone on the far edge of your political, the far total opposite of your cultural perspective, let's say, and what you believe. It's hard to recognize. It's hard to see that. Hey, we're one family. You're still, you might be my crazy Uncle Johnny, but no offense, Uncle John. Um,
Yeah.
but we're getting there. It's a process to come to learn that, I think
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah. And the interesting part of it is, and we'll hit the, as you said, this is a multi-factor vision thing here, a goal here, and so we'll get to another aspect of this, but no matter what our opinion of different members of the family may be, they all bring a valuable aspect, a needed skill, a unknown perspective to the table that allows the whole to operate in a better fashion, to operate more uh, in addition to collectively as a family, but also provide that feedback of you need to look at a different aspect of this because I think you're a little off.
Right.
And so once that happens, then we can begin to respect and utilize the skills of every aspect of the whole.
Yeah. That's the next piece, right, folks? We respect and honor the interconnectedness of that one life. So we come to this realization that we've got this one thing, that we are part of this wholeness, this one global family. But then it does come down to that place of how do we start to respect and honor?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
more than just, uh, I think that's so much more than just let's agree to disagree.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a cop out, in my opinion.
I agree.
Because I mean, if that's the case, then why are we talking? Because you're just going to try to prove your point. I'm just going to try to prove my point. And then if I can't convince you or you can't convince me, then you can say, oh, well, we just agree to disagree. Not really taking into account the points that are being made, the statistics, the information, the resources, or whatever the situation is that we should look at, not so much for somebody to convince us, because ideally this thing is growing. So we want to take the position where we are, grab more information, and then rise higher than that on the next go round.
Right. Exactly. You bring me back to our
Yeah.
spiral of becoming, and on that next go around. So, however, folks, before we do that next go around, we want to take just a brief second here to say thank you to our sponsors and to the New Thought Media Network. We're going to take just a quick minute here to do basically a station identification and all that, and we're going to be right back. Hang tight with us. We'll be back with more New Thought today. New Thought Radio, music from all your favorite New Thought artists. From Jamie Lula, Karen Drucker, Gary Lynn Floyd, Ricky Byers, Daniel Nahmod, Eddie Watkins Jr., and many, many more. 24/7 New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring. All right, and we're back. I'm Reverend Robert.
Reverend Z.
And this is New Thought Today, an opportunity we take each week to dig in a little deeper to the Centers for Spiritual Living Global Vision and what those statements really mean and how they impact our lives. And are they still applicable? Are they still valid today? And if you're just joining us today, we're looking at what we call statement number 4. We envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. A world where there is kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. And how we've gotten to this point of talking about respect and honor.
Big one.
Doesn't seem like there's an awful lot of that going around these days. I know my eyes are clouded. I know that's been in my prayer work. Z, how about for you? How do we bring more of that honor and respect back into this all?
Well, I think I'm going to make this statement, and it may sound, off point to some people, but I think if you just bear with me, it'll bring the point home. When I was doing some research for this program, thinking about this interrelatedness and honoring all life, all creation, I came across this article, if you will, on dogs and how they are interrelated to us, and that so I found these short vignettes, if you will, on how dogs are used to detect illness in humans. Now, they have hard evidence with great results of dogs being able to detect cancer before it shows up, low blood sugar, if somebody's blood sugar is fluctuating. They can detect migraine headaches, malaria, stress, narcolepsy, Parkinson's disease, seizures, and the latest thing on the menu, if you will, is they've been able to successfully get a couple of dogs trained to determine if someone has COVID-19.
Wow.
And they had this statement at the beginning that said humans have like 5 million receptor sites for smell. Dogs have 250 million. So they have an interrelationship between your sweat and the odor that you're giving off to be able to determine when these things are happening. And so all of that to say, there is a point there that we have to honor that because I can't do it.
Right.
That interrelatedness between a dog and the ability to train them to determine these things and how that is interrelated to me actually living means that I have to understand and respect that, even if it doesn't apply to me at the moment. It might at some other point. And so that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of this interrelatedness, but more so this next piece that we're talking about is the honoring and respecting that particular creature for doing that thing that I cannot do at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I as you were sharing, I flashed to that. How many people along the world have used the phrase "dumb dog"? Come here, you dumb dog. Oh, what a dumb dog.
Yes.
And the dog's probably looking at us like, hey, dude, I got a PhD in the sniffer department here. And what I know is you ain't long for this world. So you can just take the dumb dog thing. But I ain't going to tell you that because
I'm dumb.
I'm dumb. I don't know that you got cancer. I don't know that you got.
Yes.
But we and folks, we're awakening to these truths, right? There are so many of these truths that somehow we've inherently known. I don't know how many of you out there read Douglas Adams and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and yet this conversation's reminding me of the dolphins And yeah, we don't, and we know that we now do know scientifically that they have a great brain capacity,
Hmm.
that they are interconnected to their environment probably even more intimately than we are connected to ours. Looking at some of the people in the world, I'm positive they're more intimately connected with their environment than some of the humans on the planet. Some of the humans on the planet don't even know they have an environment. So,
Yes.
right, ultimately, and we can joke about that once we recognize it.
Yeah.
But it is in that place of saying, okay, this pet, what I call a pet, is just another being on the planet, just another being in experience. And if what I've learned about all of this in 20 years is if something's in my life, it's necessary.
Mm.
And if there's a relationship in my life, then it's there for my benefit. And whether that's a pet, whether that is a stray that I see walking down the street, whether that's another person, whether that's the tree outside my window. And I would be so heartbroken to lose the tree outside my window. We have developed that interconnectedness, and
Yes.
right, I take care of my tree because I know my tree takes care of me,
Hmm.
blocking the sun from coming in and allowing the sun in the winter.
Yeah.
It does make my lighting situation a little tricky here, but
Well,
um,
and the interesting thing there, we're talking about uh, plants and animals and things that people normally don't think about when they're thinking about a global family. But I
right.
think it's important to bring this up because it lends the whole idea of taking care of the environment, honoring our water supplies, our food supplies, our plants and trees that are providing us with the oxygen to live, and so it begins to bring up the point I think that's also necessary, and that is we have to become more aware because the more interconnected we are, the more we strive to be this growing global family. We have to be aware of, as Kenny Rogers says, we have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, because sometimes we may be moving a little too fast, or it might be moving a little too slow, or we just need to get out and stop and rest for a while, and how we cultivate this interrelatedness and honoring and respecting people's differences, talents, and everything. There is a and hopefully we can put this in the notes. There was a story, two stories on CBS, one on 60 Minute and one on the local news. On 60 Minutes, they had a program about adults with autism, and oftentimes when we see someone who's not so-called normal, right, we don't know how to feel, we don't know how to act, right, and oftentimes we have pity for them, but in this program they highlighted maybe four, five, six uh, adults who had autism, and they were off the chart outstanding in what they could contribute. There was one guy who was able to look at the stars, and he's come up with a couple of patterns that NASA is using to detect stars and galaxies and stuff. But if you look at him at first blush, because he has autism, you might think, well, he has very little to offer. And then on the flip side, there was another story of a 12-year-old kid who was just about ready to go work on his degree in astrophysics. He was finishing up at a technical college, going to Georgia Tech to study astrophysics, and he's looking to finish there and go to MIT and get a PhD. And the guy asked him, well, how do you feel? He says, hey, I was just born this way. This is how I came. I'm not worried about anything else. I'm just trying to do what I can do. This kid was reading at like 4 weeks, they said,
Wow,
detecting words and being able to call them out in 4 weeks.
wow, yes. Every single person on this planet, every single one, no exceptions, everyone has a unique set of gifts and skills and
Yeah,
talents.
yeah, yeah.
And we're all being called to share those around the universe, around the planet where we can. And I love what you're saying there, that young man's philosophy, right? Hey, I'm just doing what I can. I'm just being who I am and doing what I can. Uh, it reminds me of a phrase I first learned when I came into religious science and the science of mind, and that was, your opinion of me is none of my business.
None of my business.
And that would follow that my opinion of you is none of your business either, so I should just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
But um, so, right, and that to me, folks, is truly, that's honoring and respecting.
Yeah.
That I may not agree with you. I may have a belief, I may look and see everything I don't like about the state of the world, the state of my own consciousness, and yet, no matter what I see, my perspective, what I believe of you, is nobody else's business, and truthfully, it's doing no one any good. So I,
And no, and just quickly, and it's looking at the world through one set of lenses.
right. So I have to be able to expand that perspective in order to honor and respect you.
Right.
If I'm going to honor and respect that, hey, yeah, I might think you're my crazy uncle, but my crazy aunt doesn't think you're crazy. So she kind of likes you. So you got to have some redeeming quality there somewhere. And if we are open, when we open ourselves to a different perspective and say, okay, you're here on the planet, you must be a divine expression of the one. You're here
Mm-hmm.
in my life. You must be here to serve and support and be something that I need. And there's got to be a give and a take. There's got to be a benefit if we're connected, if we're in this thing together at this time. So what do we do with that? And in many ways, how do we move forward from that? Right?
And my answer to all questions of this flavor, if you will, is conversate and educate.
Yeah.
We have to begin to talk. We can't take the easy way out. We have to begin to highlight differences that we may have, or things that we may see are troubling, and then be able to talk about them from not only just emotional, passionate place,
Right.
but also from a place of knowledge and understanding and experience, which means we have to go do some research. We have to have some experience going on. So I can begin, my favorite thing in this is, I say it all the time, no matter how much I describe to you what a mango tastes like, you are never going to understand what a mango tastes like until you bite into it.
Right.
And that's
Yep.
how we have to begin to see this interchange, this education and conversation and research, and trying to have shared experience, because the more shared experiences we have, the more we can conversate about those. It's probably not a word. Converse is the real word. We get an opportunity to see from the other perspective, and now we can move closer in that growth.
Right. Exactly. And that's it, coming together in our growth. So, folks, if you're just joining us, we're checking out and we're exploring statement number 4, if you will, from the Centers for Spiritual Living Global Heart Vision. And what that says is, we envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. A world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. Now, and I take notice there's as we're starting to talk about this, that it doesn't actually say spiritual experience.
Right.
It says spiritual wisdom and experience.
Yeah.
Now we've had Z and I have been having this conversation, which I think so many would, of, all right, how would we change some of these? Because some of these seems a little, they take some unpacking. That's what we're here for. Uh, but it comes back to, as you were just sharing, this shared experience that is absolutely necessary,
Mm-hmm.
so we can experience the connectedness, so we can experience the kinship, the prosperity that results from our kinship with all
Right.
life. With, I think of it this way: if if my Rolodex had a phone number for everyone on the planet, and I'm not talking NSA kind of stuff here, if I could really reach out to anyone on the planet, then I would be able to create and demonstrate and manifest anything we wanted. You would too.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
just call the expert.
Right. And the thing too, as we begin to have these shared experiences, we begin to have a common reference point. Because if I start talking about mangoes and you've never even seen one, let alone had to eat one, I might as well be on the other side of the planet trying to describe to you and give you some contextualization of what we're experiencing or trying to share or trying to do, because there's no reference point. There's no
Right.
common ground. And it's when we get common ground, then we're able to first we have a connecting point. Is that common ground? That's the first thing. We're going to feel some kindred spirit to
Right.
that. And then the energy will elevate itself to say, we can do this collectively. I got one part, you got the other part. Neither one of us necessarily has to be overburdened or overtaxed. We can work together and we can take this from point A to point B, look back on it and say, wow, that was a great experience. I'm proud of it. It excites me. Let's do something else.
Right. Exactly. Uh, let's do something else. Let's keep going. What's the next piece? Because and it's that kind of energetic vibration. It's right. It's that kind of connectedness where we really feel. And this is not just in a business situation or in a partnership. This
Mm-hmm.
is in all aspects of our lives where we can really, really feel this guy gets me.
Mm-hmm.
She and I are aligned. We've got something here that we perhaps we're speaking the same language as the dolphins for a little bit. That connectedness and says that we are one. We're more than just kin. We're
Yeah.
right. We're kin, but we're kin at a whole deeper level.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like it's like going back to that example with the dog, right? If I got the dog and the dog's been trained to let me know when my blood sugar is going low and prevent me from going into some dire situation, I am truly honoring and respecting, and we might have to go buy a steak for that dog. If he keeps me from blacking out at the car wheel and crashing, um, and so now, once he performs that task, we have an even greater bond. He's happy he saved me. I'm happy he saved me. The
Right.
bond is going to get strong. Well, that same thing happens with us as adults or humans, rather, in
Right.
that the more we have this shared experience and these common reference point of success or failure that motivated us to another successful thing, we begin to develop that invisible connection. They say in quantum physics that once two photons are correlated, you can split them apart and put them on different sides of the universe, and they will
Right.
always be correlated. And
Yes.
that correlation is instantaneously. They've mapped it, they've tracked it, and it's moved quicker than sound and quicker than speed of light. It's just instantaneous once you get that connection. So this experience of working together and honoring people and shared experiences, uh, as one global family trying to maneuver and figure it out, we become correlated. There's nothing that can stop us really, because we
Right.
can pull on any aspect, as you said on the phone. It's just a matter of saying, I don't know that, but Mr. Davis does. Mr. Davis, I'm doing so and so. Could you please help me? Boom. I'll
Right.
be glad to.
Yes. And the glue that keeps it all together, I believe, is this piece in the statement, the guidance of spiritual wisdom. The
Mm,
spiritual wisdom keeps it all together. So
yeah.
we come into coherence through the shared experience. We come into coherence with our colleagues, our friends, those we align with, those that it's so groovy to create with, those we want to go dancing with, right? We create that coherence, but that coherence is really based in spiritual wisdom.
Yeah.
And when it is, when friendships and relationships are honoring of that spiritual wisdom, are nurturing that, collaborating within that, then the bonds become even stronger, even quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a difference between the spiritual wisdom and the human wisdom, right? Human wisdom says politician X is better for America, and human wisdom says no, politician Y is better for human wisdom, for the human experience. Spiritual wisdom says that it's always a both and,
Right.
that it's all got to be part of the mix. And anytime we try to exclude any one part of it, we are creating a limitation that can only, well, reflect, demonstrate, and impact my life in the future.
Yeah, and you wind up saying, well, it matters who takes the position, A or B. However, I can work within the auspices of either one because I'm knowing that there's a higher expression, there's a higher uh, relationship or interactedness that needs to go on that will gain wisdom from whatever it is,
Right.
and that, you know,
And to some degree, it's not the easiest thing on the human level to truly honor and respect every living example of spirit that I come across.
and you made me think about this. There's this whole field of studies called system theory or system dynamics, and one of the classic examples that they show that this stuff is not always uh, intuitive, if you will, in that if you're the one example is if you're in a house and it's hot, you have the heater on, you want to
Right.
cool it down, you open the window thinking
Mhm.
that that's going to cool it off. But actually, what that does is the the thermostat picks up the cool breeze that just came from you opening that window. And they notice the differential change, and so now it starts working harder to get it warm. And so you open the window to try to cool it off, as opposed to turning down the thermostat. And when you open that window, it just kicked the thing into a higher gear. So we have to begin to look at the wisdom part of this to
Right.
understand what's the right thing to do at the right time, which sometimes is not so apparent.
Right. That's the guidance. Right. That's the guidance that reminds me when to keep my mouth shut and when it's safe to speak. That's the guidance that says, hey, in this situation, you've been down this road before, and you know what the spiritual ramifications, what the spiritual implications of your actions are going to be.
Right.
Now, as humans, as adults, as humans, not even adults, just as humans, we have that choice to go down that, to do whatever it is we feel like we want to do. As when we're kids, yeah, we say stuff, kids say the darndest things, right? Uh, they haven't learned the filters, and
Yeah.
here's
And the
my point,
experience.
and the experience. Um, and as adults, I think that there are filters that definitely benefit who we are and how
Yeah.
we show up.
Without doubt. Without
And
doubt.
we couldn't live without those human filters. Now, we can have a divine experience beyond those filters, and we can use these principles to inform how we enact those filters and what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior. It's all because we come to a spiritual maturity where we recognize that every part of what we do, think, say,
Mm-hmm.
and how we act has a direct impact on the future of how what we experience in life.
And yeah, and as you were saying that, it just made me think about this whole situation where some pain, although we don't always like it, is a very necessary thing.
Mhm.
Because I don't want to put Novocaine in my hand so I can't feel it and then stick it in a fire. Because I won't feel the pain if I, you know, put Novocaine in my hand, but my hand will never be the same again.
Yeah.
So that pain is an interrelated experience, if you will, something to be honored, and respected, that when I put my hand in the fire, there's a pain there for a reason. Not normal. Move hand. Uh, and it's the same thing with relationships with people, animals, plants, the whole universe. In that certain things happen to cause us to reflect on the wholeness of the global family, to understand and respect what each aspect of life brings forward, and to learn to operate within the experientials that we have to gain wisdom
Yeah,
on how to navigate, and as it says in the very beginning, to continue to grow as an integrated family respectively.
man. We are in the midst of that. We
Yes.
are we are absolutely in the midst of learning how to grow as one global family. I agree with you there. So, hey, before we get too far down the road here, folks, we do want to take just another brief moment to say thank you to our sponsors, those that make this programming possible. This is New Thought Today, and we're brought to you by the New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring global network of positive music, media, and entertainment. Give us 45 seconds of your time. We want to share just a little bit more of who we are, and then we'll be back with more of the conversation on New Thought Today. Be right back with you. New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. All righty. Thank you to the New Thought Media Network. So I'm Rev Briz coming
I'm
back with you.
Rev Z on this end.
And we are here. This is New Thought Today. A couple of religious science ministers taking a perspective of the future of New Thought. And we're doing that by launching through the first 10 principles, or the 10 principles that are part of the Center for Spiritual Living global vision. So if you're just joining us, we want to share the principle we're talking about today, and we've got more than a few of these to go, so that's good. We'll share a little bit of our schedule with you later before we're done today. But today what we're looking at is we envision a world in which we live and grow as one global family that respects and honors the interconnectedness of all life. A world where this kinship with all life prospers and connects through the guidance of spiritual wisdom and experience. And before our last break, Z and I were here, we're talking about how that connection shows up. And that connection shows up in all kinds of amazing and wild and sometimes a little confusing, hey, why is that person in my life? But these connections, they show up, and if we're paying attention, if we're really doing the work we are here to do, then those connections are what help us to understand and realize our prosperity.
Yep.
And that's
Yep.
kind of where we want to go from here.
Yeah. And you know, when I look back on my life and I think about the encounters with people that at first it seemed like a chance encounter, and then that little chance blossoms into something totally different, and that person becomes a mainstay in your life, to help you through situations, to, you know, all sorts of things. I'm sure most of you have heard this phrase, a brother from another mother or a sister from another mother, where you meet someone, and the energies may seem totally opposite, but there's a connection there, and that person is so in tune with you, and so you guys counterbalance off of each other so well that they're like a blood family member. uh and you can be honest with that person, you can be open, the same with them with you, And we begin to see that there are no chance encounters. Uh, because if I went down A Street and met so and so, I just as easily could have went down B Street and met someone else, or met no one else at all. So,
Right.
but it's not a chance; it's based on choice.
Yeah.
And so, this whole idea of understanding, we have to choose to understand that. We have to choose to be a part of life in its holistic fashion, so that we can honor and respect these so-called chance encounters, and realize that they're divine encounters, and that they're there because in the beginning, if you will, when God created heaven and earth, there was a correlation. All of us were correlated together, and when we went our separate ways, however you want to define that, we're still correlated. So there's an energetic connection between everything on the planet.
Yeah.
And if we don't tune it out, we can pick up the frequency and begin to build that frequency back up to its divine nature and divine vibration.
Yeah. This reminds me something I right. Never burn a bridge. Something I was taught a long time ago. Never burn a bridge. If you don't have to burn that bridge, don't just do it because you like to watch the bridge burn. Uh, and I forget where this was because you never know who you're going to meet on the way down that you
Mm-hmm.
stepped on the way up.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we've talked about this on this program. This life is that ebb and flow. It is the circle, it is the spiral, it is the repetition of experience from different perspective. And sometimes we slip and sometimes things fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we never quite know whose hand is going to be there to reach and say, "Here, let me help you up."
Yeah.
And if that hand is somebody who let's say if you soured that relationship years ago, that hand might not be there when the time is necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. And this statement here of a global family that's interrelated, that's growing together, that is honoring and respecting everyone at the table, and we are beginning to have this shared experience and gaining a common spiritual wisdom that allows us to live in this correlated way. It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
I mean, because it allows us to have this cosmic dance, if you will, where we begin to uh, move to the music of life effortlessly. It's not something that we have to think about anymore. It's not something that we have to feel angst about. If we could just step into that statement and understand the flow and vibration of it, it'll carry us down the river, if you will, all by itself. We just have to know when to lean to the left and lean to the right. We don't
right.
even have to move. We just lean. And then and boom, we missed that. Boom, we missed that. Oh yeah, we went right to that. Uh, and that's how this integratedness of this spirit works when
Yeah,
we understand that we're a family.
yeah. I love what you're saying there. I've learned in so much in all of the sports I participated in as a younger man. Uh, it's never about the aggressive dramatic action. It's always about the subtleness. It's always just a little bit of this and a little bit of finesse this way or a little bit of
Yep.
finesse that way. Uh, I think of playing billiards and playing pool. You know, give me a guy that hits him hard all the time. Because the guy that knows finesse and a soft touch will beat that guy that hits him hard every night, all night long. You'll wipe him off the table
Yeah.
with just a little. So this spiritual guidance, this spiritual wisdom, it keeps us in that ebb and flow. A little bit of this, and we start to recognize that it's not about dramatic actions.
Mm-mm.
It's not about outrage over who won and who lost. It's not outrage over who does what to who. Now, there is that piece that it's okay to have a bit of no, never again within each
Mm-hmm.
of us, and we've each faced oppression in some form, in some way. Uh, Unfortunately, to my black brothers and sisters, way too much. To my LGBTQA friends and family, way too much.
Yeah.
We still have those populations today that are feeling way too much of that, more than I will ever know, and I'm grateful that I won't have to know that. However, we've got to be able to stand up and say, okay, I'm here to be part of the solution where we're coming together
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
honor and respect because deeply we are one. And telling the other guy that he's wrong is not going to change that.
Right. Right. And the classic statement on that is, if someone is in need of blood and you got O positive blood and it's good blood, you don't care where it comes from if it's going to save your life.
Right.
You want the blood. And that's the kind of approach we have to take to this global family, is that we all have some of that spiritual blood that's running through us, that can give each and every one of us a transfusion, if you will, when we're down and out, or we need some encouragement, or we need some applause, or we need someone to help celebrate with us. It goes on both sides of the spectrum. And so that's the meaning of holistic, integrated, growing family. That means, it's by definition, growth means it ain't the same today as it was yesterday, because it's
Right.
growing. And because that's the game that we've chosen to play on this planet, then we should honor that, and we should step into that knowing that it's going to change tomorrow and the next day. And there'll be some plateaus where you get to a steady state, but it's not going to stay there. It's going to stay there till it can integrate the experiences, the wisdom, the interactions. And when all that has been integrated, it's going to move again. And that's life. And
Yeah.
so when we're able to look at this experience as a global opportunity to elevate each and everything that's here, planet, person, animal, thing, to a higher level of expression, to a higher level of functioning, then we're activating on this principle 100%.
Right. All right. Well, there we are then. Which means the question becomes, folks, how are we going to do that?
Yes.
And you may find that we sometimes will sound like a broken record because eventually just about every conversation comes back to, well, what's mine to do then? Where do I feel called? And we're not here to tell you what that is. We're not going to tell you who to vote for, what to vote for, what organization to support, what organization to not support, because that is your journey and that
Mhm.
is your unique calling. Now we'll support you in figuring out what that is. If you're not sure what that is, or you want a little, a little insight, some spiritual insight, all of that, then you definitely want to get with us and let us talk it out with you.
Yeah.
Let us talk it out with you. Z and I have an email address here on the New Thought Media Network, ministertalk@mtmedia.org. That goes to he and I and just the two of us and no one else. And you wanna share with one of us, or you've got something you want to work through, get in touch
Yeah. Yeah.
because we're connected. We're here to be a part of this thing together, not to tell you what to do, but to invite you into a deeper experience of what is really yours to do.
And one thing we will do, though, we will tell you, as it said in the statement, experience.
Yes.
Experience, which by definition means you have to get involved. You have to try things. You have to develop some discipline. You have to develop some discernment. You have to become uh, more aware and more observant, because this is where, I mean, imagine we talked about way back the observantness, if you will, of those dogs, and the awareness of those dogs that can detect cancer in someone by a smell before they even know they got the cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, that isn't an awareness and a level of observation that we need to be striving to. So I can begin to know, oh, no, I don't want to do that because that's going to lead me down the path I don't want to go. Or yes, this is a good conversation or a good relationship to experience and have, because it's going to cause me to grow, right? Or to
Yeah.
solidify something that I'm not so sure of. But after this relationship, I'm hard and fast on it now because I've experienced it, I've gained the wisdom, and we're ready to move. But those are some tools that we're pretty sure that you have to have those, if
Yeah.
not all of them, one or two of them, to move forward in anything you do.
Yeah. You got me on that one too, because there's that point where that it's like where there's the, oh no, I'm gonna have to grow. This feels so good and this feels so right and we're having so much fun, but oh shit, you mean I'm gonna have to grow?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, that's new thought today, folks. Right? It is necessary. It's part of our statement here. We envision a world in which we live and grow, where we are actively utilizing all this stuff to become more of who we came here to be.
And whatever it is we came here to be is to be done collectively. It
Yes.
is to be done in interrelationship. It is to be done as a holistic unit because you know I the butterfly principle, which is if you're not familiar with it, a butterfly flaps its wings on the Serengeti and causes a hurricane in Florida
Yeah.
just by the chain of events that are interrelated to cause this one thing that seems insignificant that now creates and causes this thing that is major, so to speak,
Yep.
right? And so the ability to understand that, we become more compassionate, we
Mm.
become more tolerant, we become more able to hear somebody out and not be chomping at the bit to get my word in to prove my worth or my value because for whatever reason I don't seem to have that or hold that idea for myself.
Yeah.
And I guess one last thing on that, it just popped in, is that the more we can honor and respect each other, the less I feel devalued and unnecessary. And so we can alleviate that right
Right.
there.
Yep. There we go. So by that, I guess part of it is I have to honor and respect myself.
Yes.
Do I truly honor and respect myself? Do I do what proves that I have respect for what I'm doing, who I am, how I'm showing up, what's happening in my world, all of it.
Yeah. It kind of goes back real quick to that story we talked about in the very beginning of the autistic adults who
Yeah.
working for NASA and all these different places. People see them, but they respect themselves and they're able to do say, hey, well, this is me. Guess what? I can kick butt and take names with the best of them. Look at what I'm doing. Have a good day.
There we go, folks. I think we're getting to a point here today. I can kick butt, take names with the best of them. There you are, and here I go, and watch me go, and um and and I'll take your support along the way.
Yes.
And please, take the offer of our support along the way, because what I know, and I know Z agrees with me here, deeply we are one,
Yes.
and we are creating a world that works better for everyone. Hey, we're just about out of time, but before we do run out of time, we want to do say another shout out and another thank you to the New Thought Media Network for making all of this happen. New Thought Media Network is the most positively inspiring network on the planet at this time, and we're doing it thanks to viewers and listeners like you. Coming up here in November, we are in the midst of our fall fund drive, our very first fall fund drive, and we're gonna top that off on Friday, November 20th, with a big, huge live stream celebration. We've got musicians and speakers and all kinds of fun stuff planned for you. Please plan to join us during that. And if you'd like more information on that event, there's a link in the description, givebutter.com/New Thought Media Network. That'll also take you to our fundraiser. And hey, also, if you're having a good time here and you'd like to hear a little bit more of what Z and I like to talk about, well, Friday mornings at 7 a.m., we've got another show here on the network, Ministers Talking Shit. and that happens every Friday. A little bit of a shorter conversation. We're usually together about a half an hour or so, and taking a look at the events and topics of the day. I have a feeling we'll have all kinds of stuff to talk about on this coming Friday, so be sure to join us for that. Z, we do have a few more minutes here. Any last thoughts as we wrap this up for today?
I guess my leaving nuggets of wisdom would be, again, I can't emphasize enough: educate, conversate, and research. I mean, we have to be able, we're in this age of fact checking, and I don't want to just to get into this thing where, again, because that can get to be a tit for tat. But to be able to have experience and to research the findings of those activities, and then to be able to converse with people about what you experience and common ground, and begin to understand the closeness and togetherness of everybody is oh so much needed right now, because we're in times where we're beginning to be uh, less integrated and less connected than we need to be, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you there. Talk with, not at.
Yes.
Right? Talk with your colleagues, talk with your family, talk with those people on social media who don't believe you do, rather than just at. And uh, I've been digging into some of those conversations lately, um, hoping to come to an understanding of how how we have several hundred friends in common and can believe so differently, and what brought our country to this point. And because it's through that understanding, I believe that we are going to be able to weather this storm, that we're
Yeah.
going to be able to start having true dialogue again and having conversations and talking with rather than talking at, because it is through that that we're creating a
Mm-hmm.
world that works for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
that it's through that that we are activating these principles. And these aren't just some hoity-toity, grand philosophy, grand theology. This is real life. This is
Action.
how we live a spiritual life. The blueprints are here. Um, Much like any good set of blueprints, you got to know how to read them, and that's what we hope we're doing for you here, is helping you to be able to read these,
Yeah. Yeah.
navigate these, and utilize them. So
Yep.
cool. Wow, we've run out of words before we've run out of time.
Ha. Well, that's something when you've covered a topic so thoroughly, you think, and you've given
Uh,
ample places for for people to interject and find themselves within that, which I think we did. If somebody shoot us a note, some comments, if you think we did that or not. I think it gets to the point to where it says, "Enough said,"
Enough said.
and the thing to do now is act, go to work, make it happen.
Yeah. Thanks for being with us, dear friends. We'll be back again next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time for New Thought Today. I'm Rev Briz.
And I'm Rev Z.
Until next time, peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.